of capacity building. We need to train our people, our task force, our working force for the future that is just coming. So we are interested in the energy transition. We are interested in this decentralization, the decarbonization, digitalization. So those are the 3 Ds that are there. But then we have somebody like us, AEPEA, has to think, why can't we team up with the government and team up with the capacity building institutions like energy centers and universities and technical training institutes to build the capacity for the new dispensation in terms of energy in this country. Of course, we follow very well the Vision 2030, the Big Four, but there is, and the SDGs, 17 SDGs, but there is a lot more we can do to build capacity for the new generation. Let's say in 20 years time, probably very few of us will be around, but we will have a very strong and very capable team of people who can make probably Africa the continent that is going to serve the whole planet in terms of capacity and in energy. So with these few remarks, Catherine, I want us to go for the real stuff, because I am convinced nobody came here to listen to the president of AEPEA. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Professor Da Silva. Thank you for those opening remarks. We are here for serious business, but your background is tempting us to forget about serious business. So good afternoon, energy professionals and friends of energy professionals. Welcome to another exciting webinar by the Association of Energy Professionals in East Africa. Today, it's a very hot topic. And it's not just a hot topic, it's a topic with far-reaching value or consequences. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about understanding your energy tariffs, development, application, and how to manage your energy costs. How are retail tariffs determined? Do consumers pay a fair value for the services they are getting? Why are customers charged different rates or tariffs? Why should some customers be charged for demand and not others? There has been so much talk about time of use. How does it actually work, and who benefits from the same? How exactly is it applied when billing? Does the electricity tariff setting system really support Kenyan businesses and manufacturers? What can be done to bring down the cost of electricity in Kenya? And how does the future look like? Will there be any material change soon? These are the questions to ponder. And to take us through this very important topic are industry experts that have a key role in developing aspects, and they have a role in the tariff development and application. And so this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, we have with us Mr. Nixon Bukachi. Nixon Bukachi is the Senior Renewable Energy Specialist at the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, AEPEA. His role includes renewable energy policy and regulation formulation, leading sector research and standards development. Bukachi holds a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from Moi University and a master's in energy technology from Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. He is a certified energy manager, certified solar PV trainer and installer, amongst others. He has 7 years work experience in energy sector and has led energy efficiency-based studies and research. Joining him is Mr. Leonard Yegon. Leonard Yegon is a senior pricing analyst currently working at AEPEA. His role includes retail tariff review, which focuses on tariff design and rate setting for the grid and off-grid connected entities and installation. He also reviews power purchase agreements between generators and off-taker. Leonard holds a bachelor's degree in actuarial science from the University of Nairobi. He has 7 years experience in energy sector and has led sector-based studies on cost of service studies. He has served as a member of the Interagency Committee on Review of the AEPEA task force that produced a report in 2018. Next, we have Mr. Sylvester Makaka. Sylvester is an executive officer and energy advisor at the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. An electrical engineer, he has got vast experience in industry, energy efficiency programs, and energy advocacy, energy pricing, and power tariffs, and power purchase agreement negotiations. He is an experienced energy general manager in energy and power systems with 20 years work experience in the cement industry. His interests include participating in creating an enabling policy and regulatory environment to support access to sustainable, cleaner energy and sustainable business. Next, we have Engineer Margaret Kanini. Engineer Kanini is the manager sales at the Kenya Power and Lighting Company. She holds an MSc in Energy Management and a BSc in Electrical Engineering, both from the University of Nairobi. She is a registered professional engineer with the Engineers Board of Kenya, EBK, a certified energy manager, a member of the Association of Energy Engineers, USA, and a gold member of AEPEA. Margaret has got extensive experience in power system distribution, energy management, including power system design, metering, energy audit, and demand-side management. Margaret has been instrumental in implementing projects that lead to climate change mitigation. She was part of the efficient lighting project that saw distribution of about 4.1 million efficient lights across the country. Currently, she is spearheading the loss management program of KPLC, which involves metering of feeders, implementing the regional and country border metering. Last but not least, we have Engineer Isaac Dereba. Engineer Dereba has a passion to inform electricity consumers on the much complex invoices from the utility, which they are expected to pay in advance before they understand. It has become a daily job for him. Isaac is the Executive Director of the Electricity Consumer Society of Kenya, which champions consumers' interests. This has been founded under the Sustainable Development Goal number 7, which aims at promoting affordable energy in sub-Saharan Africa. This has completely become unachievable. Ladies and gentlemen, put together your virtual hands for our panelists. It's going to be a hot afternoon as we engage. There's going to be a lot of learning and a lot of demystifying. Please put on the chat box where you're joining us from as we invite our first speaker. They're going to start by giving us a presentation, and then we are going to eagerly welcome your Q&A as soon as they finish their presentations. We start with Mr. Leonard Yegon from AEPEA. Leonard, karibu.
Thank you a lot, Catherine. Greetings, everyone, and I think I would like to pass my apologies. My video is not working. We've been trying on the background to set it up, but unfortunately I've not been able to. So thank you a lot, Catherine, for the introduction, and once again, it's a welcome to all the members. I just wanted to make a clarification on my bio, because I realized Professor Da Silva was the chair of that 2018 task force. I was a member of the interagency committee that came after Professor's task force, and we produced our report last year in 2020. I'm going to share my screen, which is a presentation. I hope I'll be able to. So I was asked to make a presentation on energy tariffs, and of course, what constitutes our tariffs in the region. So we are going to look at, of course, the mandate of AEPEA, which is anchored in the Energy Act of 2019, and which gives now AEPEA the mandate to review both the bulk and retail tariffs. Then we look at the statistics, the key energy statistics, evolution over time. We witnessed some growth, especially on installed capacity, demand growth, and connection, the number of customers we have on the grid. We look at the challenges of COVID and, of course, the low demand growth, because demand really is a factor in determining your tariffs. Then we look at the procurement of power, the various options that we have, ranging from FIT, PPP, and eventually now the PPA review process. Once that PPA comes to the regulator, which process it's taken through now by the regulator, and eventually the PPAs will form part of the retail tariff. So we'll have a look at the retail tariff review process as well, and the revenue requirement components, which are the building blocks really for the retail tariff. And lastly, that is the applicable tariffs that are currently applicable in Kenya. So in terms of the mandate, really, we are focusing on the mandate of AEPEA in terms of our subject matter here. There are quite a number of functions that we undertake, but as provided for in Section 11 of the Energy Act, with one key mandate of setting, reviewing, and adjusting electric power tariffs and tariff structures, and investigate tariff charges, whether or not a specific application has been made for tariff adjustment. The last tariff review we had was in 2018, and it was a tariff for 1 year, that is 2018-2019. Since then, we've not been able really to review the tariff because of quite a number of issues in the sector and other considerations. And the second mandate is on to approve electric power purchase and network service contracts for all persons engaging in electric power undertakings. These ranges from even licensing bids and such kind. So the overall mandate is that AEPEA is established under the this establishment of AEPEA, Section 9(1) of the Energy Act, which is to undertake technical and economic regulation for electricity, renewable energy, downstream coal bed, methane gas, and petroleum subsectors. The sector has seen quite tremendous growth. We've seen a connection of over 5 million customers in the last 8 years, currently standing at around 8 million customers. And this was really driven by the last mile connectivity, which grew the connectivity level from a low of around 30-40% to almost 77% as at February 2021. We've seen quite a number of commissioned projects. We have the Kengen's 158 megawatts geothermal plant, is Olkaria 5. We've had Lake Turkana, 310 megawatt wind power. This was commissioned in 2019. We have the Garissa Solar, which is a 50 megawatt solar plant. commissioned in late 2018, and of course the Kipeto 100 megawatts, which is currently undergoing commissioning. Eventually, we'll be able to look at the impacts of these power projects when we delve further into the building blocks of our revenue requirements, because you have to provide for the power purchase obligations for these power plants. Currently, our energy mix is around 92% from renewables. And I think Catherine had mentioned about one of the questions, or rather the boiling question that we have, that we've seen an uptake of renewables in the country, but the consumers have not been able to feel that effect in their customer bills. And of course, on Sustainable Development Goal number 7, which is on affordable and clean energy, the authority supports these initiatives, of course, with purpose to attaining affordability of power to low-income households and business enterprises. This is a summary of the previous slide that we've talked about in terms of the installed capacity. I think we have geothermal at around 29% and hydro. Peak demand is at 1980.27 megawatts. The slide on your right is on the energy mix. And you can see that currently we are doing thermals of last month, that is March 2021, it was around 6%. So renewables account for around 92%. We have thermal 6% and imports from UETCL, that is Uganda, at around 2%. Last year, 2020, we had an occurrence that has never been seen before, or maybe in our lifetime, the COVID-19 pandemic, which had effects on quite a number of sectors, including the energy sector. Our peak demand dropped to a low of 1765 in April 2020. In February 2020, we are at around 1944 megawatts, but it was able to pick up in October, and currently, as I've mentioned, the peak demand is at around 1980.27 megawatts. In terms of the procurement of power, there are quite a number of options which are available for the procurement of power. We've seen many projects come under the feed-in tariff policy, which was an incentive really to promote private participation in the energy sector. We have strategic project development by the national entities that is in line with the least cost power development plan. Quite a number of projects have been developed by KenGen. We have GDC availing steam, and of course the Garissa solar project. We have public-private partnerships, and of course the bilateral agreements, such as the power imports from Uganda and Ethiopia. In terms of the considerations for the PPA review process, we have, or rather the authority is mandated, or rather it borrows its mandate in accordance to section 11H 163(1), section 3 and 4. Probably just to have a look at that section 163, which ensures that, which provides that all contracts for sale of power really are approved by the authority, and the determinations which the authority needs to look at, ranging from the economic and financial viability of the project, which of course takes into account forecasted revenues. Here you have to ensure that you provide for a tariff that will ensure a recovery of the costs that have been put in that project, be it the recovery of the capex, recovery of the operations and maintenance expenses, and of course, provide a reasonable return to the investors. We have the technical feasibility, which looks at issues such as the grid connectivity, study for load flow analysis on the proposed transmission lines, and of course, the compliance with the grid code. We also look at the legal implications in these PPA. What are some of these legal and statutory provisions? Environmental, health and safety considerations, and of course the analysis of the risks that come with these PPAs, which are some of the commercial risks. We have demand risks, and the provisions really in terms of allocation to who should bear the risk. Once we have reviewed the PPA, we do review our retail tariff every 3 years. The Act provides for a review every 3 years, but sometimes there are externalities now which affect the review of the tariff. And there are a lot of, there are around 4 social objectives or other policy objectives in tariff setting. One is we look at the economic policy objective, which is to ensure efficient resource allocation within the economy. And that, of course, the eventual consumers who are the final bearers of this tariff pay for prudently incurred costs. We have to look at the financial policy objective, which ensures the short and long-term financial viability of the sector utilities. Because if those sector utilities are not there, then we will not be talking of that electricity in your homes, in your industries. We also look at the social policy objective, which tries to reallocate cost among the consumers, because among our society, you have what I would call the vulnerable class. And of course, you try to ensure that you protect them. In 2018, you recall that we had to expand our lifeline threshold from 10 units as approved in July 2018 to 100 units in November 2018. And this was able to accommodate almost all what I would call all the consumers in the vulnerable group. And of course, there are other customers now who enjoy that lifeline tariff, and which they shouldn't be enjoying. In terms of the tariff review process and its and the design, right, the starting point really is on the demand forecasting. We have the list cost team, which forecasts the demand over a period of time, and they tell us now we expect that our demand will grow from these megawatts to these megawatts. Then, of course, we have to run what we call a generation expansion plan, and to determine now which power projects you need to bring on board, of course, based on list cost, to be able to meet that demand. Then next, you have to determine the revenue requirements, of course, attributable to the generation facilities. We also have to look at the transmission infrastructure, distribution, and supply. And once you determine that revenue requirements, then you'll be able to allocate the total revenue requirements to each of the customer classes that you have based on the marginal cost of generation, transmission, distribution, and retail. Then we have, of course, the initial retail tariff proposal. We do some sort of sensitivity analysis. We go out there and engage our stakeholders. And of course, we have the final determination of the retail tariffs once, of course, it's approved by the board. The building blocks of the revenue requirements, which is what I would say is what the consumers are paying for. I would like us to dwell on this formula right at the bottom of my slide, where we have the revenue requirement being a function of you multiply what we call your regulated asset base. That is the asset base that is allowed by the regulator, or rather which is deemed sufficient by the regulator for you to be able to provide that service. So that asset base earns a certain rate of return. I think in the next slide, we look at how we determine that rate of return. because really what it means is you've taken your money, you've put it here, you could have put it elsewhere to earn a certain return. Then we do provide for the O&M expenses. We provide for depreciation, which is a recovery of that asset. And of course, lastly, we do provide for the corporate taxes at 30%. That rate of return is determined as a weighted average cost of capital, and it's based on the mix of the capital structure that the entity has. You could be having debt, say 70% of your capital structure from debt with a certain cost, of course, you've borrowed this money. Then there's the equity component. Those are owner's funds. He could have chosen to divert them somewhere else, but he put them in the sector. And of course, they earn a return as well, which is the cost of equity. Sorry. So the cost of equity is based on the CAPM, and it's currently set at 10.5% post-tax, all the public utility regulated entities. And of course, we do consider the actual cost of debt. That is, for instance, if it's Kenya Power, when we're looking at the retail tariff, when you're looking at the generator as well, you consider the actual cost of debt. Once you have your overall, I hope you all remember that semantics that I was showing. Once you have your overall revenue requirements, then you come up with what we call a tariff level, which is the average tariff across all the consumers or the customers. Sometimes we call it the yield, average yield. So for example, you are allowed, or rather the allowed revenues is 100 billion. You have a forecasted consumption. This is the retail tariff aspect, forecasted consumption of 10,000 gigawatt hours. Your average tariff level or the yield is around 10 shillings per kilowatt hour, which is just a division of the allowed revenues by the consumption. Then, of course, from there, now you go to your tariff design and structure. You have different customer categories. You have to allocate those costs to each of the customer categories. Yeah, we used to have fixed charge payable on a monthly basis, but from 2018, you no longer have it. You could be having an energy charge or a demand charge for the case of commercial customers. So from the yield you build to the tariff design, a residential tariff could pay around 12, commercial around 10 shillings and 200, so that you attain that tariff level. I think I mentioned this. The applicable tariffs were approved in July 2018 and revised in November. And the revision in November 2018 affected the domestic customers and the small and medium-term enterprises. On a monthly basis, we have the computations of the pass-through costs. That is the forex adjustment, which is due to the volatility of the exchange rate. These power purchase agreements are denominated in foreign currencies, and largely because the investors really are from, they're not local, they're from outside. We have a fuel energy cost, which is dependent on the amount of thermal mix contribution. We have Warma levy that is payable to the Water Resources and Management Authority for utilization of the water by the hydros. And of course, the inflation adjustment, just to take care of the inflation, which is done on a biannual basis. We have taxes and levies, VAT currently at 16%, which is on your demand charge, non-fuel energy cost, fuel energy cost, inflation, and forex adjustments. Then we have the Rural Electrification Program levy at 5% of revenue from the unit sales, which goes to REREC for promotion and extension of rural electrification program. And lastly is the AEPEA levy, which is at 3 cents per kilowatt hour. This graph shows the evolution of tariff from around April of 2017 for 3 select customer categories and the fuel energy cost. The red one here you'd see is for the domestic lifeline customers. They used to enjoy, the threshold was at 50 units. In July 2018, we brought it down to 10 units. So those customers now were not considered lifeline. So they ended up paying almost the same tariff as with the, what I would call the ordinary customers. In November 2018, we revised the threshold to 100 units per month. So that customer who consumes 50 now fell again, or rather was brought back to the lifeline threshold category. That is the tariff. The yellow one is the commercial industrial form. And we have the domestic customer ordinary who consumes over 100 units a month. The below line here shows the fuel energy cost evolution over time. I think the highest here, that is March 2018 at around 5. But of course, in 2014, we had a high of around 7 shillings and 22 cents per kilowatt hour. So I think and thank you so much.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you so much, Leonard. I think we have all had a mini class in tariff setting process at AEPEA. Thank you so much for that, Leonard. Anybody who has a burning question, please put it in the chat box so that we don't lose it, and then we'll deal with it after the last presenter. Thank you so much, Engineer Magerere, Hannes Sakwa, Innocent Osorio, Engineer Manyala, Edward Bayer, and David Wekesa for posting to us where you are logging in from. We are moving on to our next presenter, who is from Kenya Power, and that is none other than Engineer Margaret Kanini. Engineer Kanini, karibu.
Thank you, Catherine, for that introduction. I think after the long presentation from AEPEA, mine will be short because, of course, I know there will be a lot of question and answer. I'll start with a short presentation on, of course, the tariff and the application of the tariff in billing. Because as energy professionals, we are the main consumers of tariffs. And in Kenya Power, we apply so that we have our consumers pay for what they have consumed according to the tariff. So I'll be sharing screen with you shortly. Sorry for that that hiccup. I hope you can now see my screen. I'll go straight to the overview. I'll talk about our mandate, which is well known to everyone. Then the tariffs, non-fuel, Yagon has touched briefly on that, so I'll not dwell on that, and other charges. Then I'll talk about where we are on the number of customers per tariff. Then there are two key tariff elements that are that many of us ask a lot of questions about. I'll briefly touch on power factor, and then time of use, and I'll end with the billing process, how we do it at Kenya Power. So our mandate is we purchase electricity in bulk from the power producers, the KenGen and the IPPs. Then we have currently, although in the Act, we are not supposed to be the dispatcher, but before one is appointed, we are carrying out the role of the system operator. Then we are also supposed to be building and maintaining a robust power network. We are into retail of electricity. We deal with customer service, that is the customers that we supply electricity to or we retail electricity to. Then we are also into fiber optic. Now, just looking at quickly through the rate of that we apply the current tariffs that were developed, reviewed in 2018. We have these categories of customers. We have the DC domestic lifeline, domestic ordinary, and these ones are customers supplied at the voltage of 240 to 415 and consume up to 15,000 units. Those are the domestic. Lifeline, small commercial lifeline and ordinary, putting them together, the customers small commercial customers metered at 240 volts and 415 volts and consuming up to 15,000 kilowatt hours per billing cycle. Then we have the commercial industrial customer 1 to 5, metered between 415 volts up to 132 kV. And then again, we also have the street light, which I did not put here, that category of customers, and the rates are given there. Then we have, I think this one has been touched on by Egon. Let me not dwell on that. Now we have power factor, which is one of the pain points of our industrial customers, commercial industrial customers, where we surcharge customers that maintain a power factor of less than 0.9 per billing cycle. So this one, they are surcharged when the power factor falls below that. And then we also have what we call the welding KVA surcharge, where people who do welding, these are mainly small commercials, we take the KVA of the welding machines and then we charge at 50 shillings per KVA based on the rating. Now, when we look at our customer base and in terms of how we are split across the various tariffs, we are now at past 8 million customers this month, where we have the lifeline customers, those consume below 100 units per billing cycle. We have 6.8 million. The other category, ordinary, above 100 units per billing cycle, we have around 850,000 approximately. Small commercial lifeline, it's at 214. Small commercial above 100 units, 183,000. Then commercial industrial, those are the ones metered at 415, 2,818. At 11 kV, 500, 33 kV, we have 78, 66 kV, we are at 49, and then 132 kV, we are at 47. Then street lights across the country, we have 17,584 metering points. These are not the number of street lights, but they are metering points. A group of them are put together, then we meter them. Now, when we look at power factor, the tariff talks about the way we are supposed to charge in terms of surcharging for low power factor. But as Kenya Power, our meters are programmed to capture kilowatt hours over the billing period and kVAH over the billing period. Then we divide that kWh with kVAH, and that is what we call the average method of charging. And this is to make sure that our customers maintain a good level or a high level of power factor throughout the month. What used to happen before, when we did not have smart meters, we used to have what we call coincidental power factor, where within 15 minutes of the month, you just achieve your power factor. You make sure you have your power factor within the 15 minutes, and the rest of the month you can even be at 0.1. And that was really detrimental to us as Kenya Power, because that network is being loaded with a lot of kVAR demand, which is loading the lines and causing a lot of losses as well. So the surcharge formula is prescribed in the schedule of tariff booklet, and it is given there that the cost of units and kVA, you multiply by that by 2%, and that you multiply by the level at which the power factor falls below 0.9, and the formula is given there. I think that is, I'll not go much to that. Now, the other very important element for us as energy professionals is to understand the time of use tariff, which was gazetted, introduced and gazetted in December 2017. And the spirit was to spur consumption and economic growth in the country, where the tariff is only applicable to commercial and industrial customers for off-peak hours only. And customers benefit only when they meet and exceed their consumption threshold. Now, the threshold is computed based on the last 6 months average consumption, like the ones that we are applying now is the consumption between August 2020 and February 2021. That is now the threshold that we are applying for the commercial and industrial customers for time of use. And the next one is going to be reviewed again in August. And then the period that will be used will be the review period between February and July, February 2021 and July. That is the threshold we are going to apply. Now, for new customers to benefit, they qualify for the time of use after 3 months, and the 3 months average consumption is now used as a threshold because the customers have not attained 6 months consumption. Now, the time of use tariff currently encourages customers to maintain their peak usage and to increase their off-peak consumption. It does not envisage a situation where the customer shifts their load from the peak period to off-peak just because there is a tariff. It wants the customer to increase the volume of consumption, but not to shift the load. Shifting load to off-peak does not enable the customer to benefit from the tariff, and the units over and above the threshold for the off-peak are charged at 50% rate, but only when you meet the threshold, both for high rate and high and low rate. So for customers who are at full production, and this one is usually determined through an online questionnaire by Kenya Power, the tariff provides for a 5% discount on all the off-peak units whenever they meet the threshold. This is determined through a questionnaire. Lastly, the billing process. We have now our customers, large power customers. Actually, we are almost now completing all of them, metering all of them on smart meters. Then on the first of each month, how we do the billing, the meter readings are interfaced automatically to the billing system because the meter readings are sent automatically from the meter to the billing system. The bills are then invoiced, including stamping of the KRA signature, and then the bills are sent to the customer through the various channels. Then the due date for the bills is 7 days. After 7 days, and customers are expected to pay the bills within the next 14 days, which means there's a credit period from the consumption time to the date the bills fall due will be 44 days total, 44, 45 days. So basically that is my presentation for today. I hope to interact with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Engineer Kanini. I believe now the question on time of use, which I'm sure was one of the burning questions, has begun to be answered. And you do not benefit from time of use by shifting your production. Let's hear what the representative of CAM has to say about that. Welcome, Mr. Sylvester Makaka. Let's hear from Sylvester, the Executive Officer and Energy Advisor of CAM. Thank you so much, Engineer Kanini. That was a wonderful presentation.
Thank you, Catherine.
Good afternoon. I hope I'll be fast enough. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Makaka, we get you loud and clear.
Great. I hope I'll be loud enough that the audience can hear me. KM is the largest consumer bloc in terms of manufacturing and energy consumption. Although the domestic and other consumers are catching up, we are almost at 50-50. So KM carries the bulk of the consumers and maybe the biggest in revenue generation to Kenya Power. So energy cost is very, very, very important to us. And we are looking at three things. One is availability, two is reliability in terms of consistency, it's available, and three is cost. So Kenya has had its own, I'm trying to share on the PowerPoint. Kenya has had its own share of troubles, but I think as of now, we can confidently say that we have capacity that we can proudly talk about because we don't have capacity constraints. And this is coming at a time, this webinar is coming at a time when Kenya Power has just released their results. And I was looking at the books. And in the books, they managed to get from purchase from their power generators, basically their suppliers, they managed to purchase 11,462 gigawatt hours, and of which they sold around 88,800 gigawatt hours. So they had a loss factor of around 23 point something. And the tariff for power generation, and that is what Kenya Power is obligated to pay, is looking at the capacity element. That means what we have, what is rented as installed capacity in terms of the capital equipment. It's looking at the energy charges, variable, and fuel cost as pass-through. Now, when this goes into the consumer market, the load profile really changes. So it means that we are generating at different prices every time. So if you are generating from, and this is a general profile of the load profile on a 24-hour basis for Kenya, that at every time you require different plants. So there are plants that can come in during the peak time and plants that are off during the peak time. So the question we ask ourselves is how then do we price our energy? And from an energy management point of view, when do you have the best mix and what is the cost of that mix? Looking at the load profile. But when we come to the retail tariff, then you get the demand charge for high-end consumers like the manufacturers, you get the energy charge, you get the fuel cost, you get the levies, you get the inbuilt losses, PF surcharge, inflation, and all that. And I'll talk a little bit more on the REP, the Rural Electrification Program, which is charged at 5%. AEPEA, of course, we are supporting the regulator, 3 cents per kilowatt hour. There's Warma, all these are levies. So the question we normally ask ourselves is, if energy generated and energy sold has the same value, then why should the levies be charged at a percentage? What this percentage means, and this is a matter of discussion, is that if my tariff rate, base tariff rate, let's say, is 10.10, when I pay for my REP, I'm paying 5% of that 10.10, and that means I'll pay close to 50 cents. But when my best tariff is 12 shillings, which is the highest, according to what Kanini has presented, then my REP charge per unit, it moves from 50 cents to 60 cents. So the question is, are levies meant to treat every energy sold as equal, or if I'm paying more, then I need to pay slightly more than the rest? We are of the view that seriously, an energy sold is energy sold, a kilowatt hour sold is a kilowatt hour sold. And so this REP should reflect an equal measure for all consumers consuming in Kenya. Now, when we look at, I think my engineers are coming opposite, but when we look at the cost of generation, and I've done an average from the Kenya power units, what they paid, we are looking at an average cost of generation, looking at the units that were purchased last year, last financial year, and the amounts paid. We are looking at an average cost of base cost. This is base cost without considering anything else, at an average cost of around 6.5, plus all others, losses, fuel cost, and all that. And that means that we can actually be able to track, and smart metering and smart systems are there. We can actually be able to track the actual cost of power generation at any time, peak or off-peak, and try to see what is the benefit that manufacturers or consumers can gain, can draw from this variable cost. And I can see some economies are what we call spot market energy pricing. So that if, say, Kenya Power at time T is able to get energy at, say, 4 shillings, or is able to get energy at 3 shillings, or at some point is able to get energy at 10 shillings. What is it? How does that benefit then get transferred to the consumer? So that we have a smart system, a smart market that really transfers the real value or the real benefit or the real pain to the consumer. Then consumers have an option of choosing how to manage their costs. As it stands today, we are in a situation where when you're consuming in the morning when generation cost is low, or when wind is high, and when solar is high, we are paying at the same tariff. And what does this mean? That we'll open an opportunity for alternatives. And that alternative means that when I feel that I can generate from solar cheaper during the day, why will I go to Kenya Power? When Kenya Power is charging me a fixed rate, when actually solar is high. When I'm actually supposed to be pushing my volumes during the day, I'll opt to go for cheaper generation. And that reality is coming for sure today or tomorrow. And you will see it coming because there are cheaper alternatives that are tracking the time of the day. Thank you all. And I think I'll invite you for some questions at the end of this, but that's the way we see it, that with time, and that time is not very far away from now, that we'll be looking at competing interests, competing energy sources, cheaper, expensive. So the question is, at what point should a consumer choose Kenya Power, or should a consumer choose an option that is much cheaper than it? Then we look at other jurisdictions. What are they doing? Of course, we want to protect the sector, and Yegon talked about it, that they are looking at revenue-based revenue requirement and all that. We want the sector to be vibrant and supportive and strong. But if it is strong and killing business, then it doesn't make the business environment conducive, because people will shift. But if it's strong and keeping business alive, then it will be supported. So what do we do? Isn't it time now we focused on what the moving or tracking the actual energy costs and transferring that benefit, of course, protecting the revenues of Kenya Power, but making the consumer, or giving the consumer and the customer in this case, an option to generate or to produce at cheaper costs, then you will automatically have those who are mass produce 24 hours, catching up during the peak hour when generation is very expensive. And we have, of course, the domestic consumers who must come in the evening, coming in at the peak time, and the rates are very different. And that's why we need to relook at the time of use tariff so that it's reflective of the actual cost of generation. And by so doing, let the consumer get the benefit. Thank you very much for listening.
Market pricing. Will the consumers choose Kenya Power, or will they go for an alternative option? That is Mr. Sylvester Makaka. I think he has left us in no doubt as to why he is the advisor and an energy officer at CAM, because you can see the interests that he is representing. Thank you so much. Please give a virtual hand clap to all the past panelists. Mr. Makaka, Engineer Kanini, and Mr. Leonard Bukachi. Mr. Leonard and Mr. Bukachi from AEPEA. Well, we are coming to our last presenter, and I can see the questions have started rolling in. Our last presenter says he champions consumer interests. Please welcome the Executive Director of the Electricity Consumer Society of Kenya, Engineer Isaac Dereva. Our last presentation for today before we go to the Q&A. Engineer Dereva.
Thank you, Catherine. I think I represent almost the same side as Sylvester Makaka, but I don't have a cut line for my consumers, so I also represent the lowest. First of all, let me express my concern about there has been billing approximation, and when Kenya Power had been billing us with 14% VAT, even what they had carried forward, because I think they are now trying to recoup the skipped reading, they should also base that on 14% instead of 16%. Otherwise, I have gotten some of my clients complaining. But anyway, let me share what I wanted to present right now. I don't have many slides because each slide will be taking about just a few minutes. But just to remind us that the Electricity Consumer Society of Kenya is an organization that empowers consumers to have access to high quality, properly regulated energy services on a fair, safe, and equitable and affordable basis. But then it is entrenched in the transforming our world. The UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development is what has also supported or given birth to this Electricity Consumer Society of Kenya. And it finds its place to try and convince us that we are doing well on the goal number 7 on affordable and clean energy, of which you will see at 7.1 is where we dwell most of the time, where we ensure that by 2030 we ensure universal access. That's not our problem much, but affordable. That affordable is our business. We'll try to show you how it's becoming affordable ever since 2017. As a result, we are not supposed to complain. But let's see. But where we are coming in is because the Sustainable Development Goals Specialized Unit for National Focal Point, you can see where we come in as a civil society organization. And we are also trying to make noise so that we can be accommodated when we are doing the voluntary assessment of the Sustainable Development Goals, which is normally done after every 2 years. But now the concerns we have as consumers are going to be the following. We are trying to make this power affordable. But ever since 2017 January, you can see the trend in which power has increased. So the issue of being affordable is none of the agendas we are trying to fulfill at all. And I am happy that all the people who are concerned in this sector are there. So basically, as consumer representative, we are complaining. But why should we complain when we are also auditors who know what happens? You can see this is one graph I keep on referring to the government every time, that you say you reduce power. And I know when I say that, people might think that I am talking to Leonard Diegon, but it is good to show him that the consumers understand when they are told that power went down. Now, if you look at this, just around this time of, this was 2018, around there. Yeah. Let me go back. Yeah. You can see the red. The red thing is the fuel. There is a fuel cost and there is a forex adjustment. What we wanted to know is that how was it possible when it is something that is affected by the global economy? How was it possible to drop the forex adjustment to almost zero? And then, if fuel cost has always been a problem and it is a pass-through cost, how was the government able to reduce from what it did in July 2018, and it reduced completely there? But now the problem is that they also increased the consumption cost. Let's see what happened. Now, what you see there on top is a graph. The line graph is the cost of power from January 2017 to January 2021. Now, and then what is on the graph is actually fuel cost, forex adjustment, and inflation. Those are three things that consumers have a problem with, a lot of it, because you can see when it dropped drastically in July 2018 and August 2018. We were told that power went down. We could see on the line graph that actually it went down. Then what happened for it to have come to start rising at around May of 2019? And then it was only reduced to pave way for the increase in what we call in blue here, for increase in the power charge or the energy charge, which came from, I think, around 12 to around a certain amount. I'm referring to domestic ordinary for those people who might be wondering, but it is almost the same proportion. But now, so we are complaining that whatever was done and whatever is being explained, there is no reduction that was experienced. In fact, power is higher. And why we are also complaining is that when you see the red bar that is in between the brown and the yellow bar, in January 2021, which is the bar at the end, you'll find one thing, that forex adjustment has started growing and inflation has started growing, much as the fuel cost has remained almost the same. So as a result, the government is telling us that they will not be able to regulate or to reduce the cost of power. Why? Because these variable components of the bill have remained to be things that the consumer cannot be able to adjust. We don't know how to calculate forex from our side. We don't know what I think this inflation is all about. But what we know is that the government can control it. Why? Because it was able to reduce it in July 2018, coming to August 2018. It came to almost zero. So the government can be able to do something if it wants. Now, we are also trying to say, when you come to other consumers who are coming from, you see the blue line is the line that what AEPEA says it has gazetted. But the red is the actual achieved. Why is it different? It's because the consumers are left to monitor their own demand charge, their own power factor, which is good. But you should also factor in an average of which it is expected. Because I'm not seeing where you could be a customer and tell him that you are going to be charged 15 shillings. I think for CI1 is 12 shillings plus VAT and all the other taxes is going to be 18. Those are lies, because you know it's going to be a demand charge for the consumer to determine, and they cannot be zero. So definitely you need to tell them your cost is going to be 25%. Let us not be told by that CI1 is cheaper than actually domestic ordinary. So that is our own finding. When you come to actually the taxation, you can be able to see, this is for one of the sampled bills. You can see demand for CI1 is actually 18.35. Yet when we are gazetting and putting taxes, we don't consider that to be a big one. So as a result, I know people from AEPEA will start saying, no, the cost is going to be 18 or 20. No, actually, it is about 26 sometimes. You can see the consumption cost if they were buying from. They would only be getting about 43.26%. Now, if you come to this other person, this is one person who was shifted because of consumption from small commercial to CI1. Now, what happened in December? Where the two lines are departing is because they started managing their own demand cost and power factors. So instead of them being upgraded and be told that you have come from being charged 15.6 shillings per kilowatt hour, because you are on small commercial, you have now come to be charged 12 shillings because you have come to CI1. Actually, they are suffering because they ended up spending more. So the tariff change was not advantageous to them. It is better to still be on around small commercial where you're paying around 20 to 22. They ended up starting paying up to 55 shillings per kilowatt hour. Yet we expect that Kenya Power should be able to communicate to these people, and a lot of education should come around to tell them you are suffering because of this and this parameter. Yeah. Now, such a person ended up actually gaining 50.71. The rest are taxes. To a Kenyan, you can't say taxation is VAT of 13.46%. Actually, including forex adjustment. Okay. Now,
apologies for that. Apologies for that. Engineer Dereva, please go back one slide.
Okay.
Please go back one slide and continue. Thank you very much.
Okay. I'm trying to see how I go back. Yeah. But I'm still, I'm audible, is it?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Please proceed.
Let me stop share and then maybe share, because I think that something has hung. Something that has hung, or all of us are now not. Yeah. Can I stop sharing? Yes. Okay. Let me come back then. Share screen. Yes. Okay. I think there's a serious problem from that side.
We can see your screen, Engineer Dereva. You may proceed.
Oh, you can be able to see that. Okay.
Yes, we can see.
So what it can't do is to move. So I will stop sharing a bit for now, and then yeah. Sorry for that. We are coming back.
Yazmak için yine yuttun bence. Hey torbacı bana versene borç. Olmaz lan.
Yeah. Okay, I now want to share.
Yes, please proceed.
Okay, sorry. So we were at that point when we were saying that
yes,
this bill portion, yeah, and use some auxiliary keyboard. I don't know at what point it refuses to share or to slide.
You can move to the next slide and continue from there.
Yes, let me move to the next slide. But perhaps you could be also reading the charts in case there is any. Am I audible now?
You're audible, but we can't see your share.
You're just going to see it in the next 1 minute.
Okay, we can see it. You may scroll to the appropriate slide.
Yeah, I think I will share without making it big. so that I can be able to pick share screen. Yes, now I think we can move on. You can be able to see that?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. Yeah, so I was trying to say, thank you very much. I think we are back. We were trying to say that this is a taxation, but I was trying to show the taxation of various other countries. You can be able to see taxes in the US, Illinois is 4%. That is the first one. The other one in Togo is about 15%. Remember, I want you to always remember when I say that, you always remember how much we consider as consumers as taxation here. Yeah. So we tend to think that these are the various taxations, and in comparison, we can see what is here in Mali is at 15%. Yeah. What is in Bujumbura, I think in Burundi is 0. Actually, it is 0. So taxes in Morocco are 12. Taxes in Senegal and Dakar are 15, and Accra is 15. Yeah. So those are just samples. But maybe coming closer home, there is Italy. You can even see taxes in Italy is 26%. In Nigeria is 5%. Taxes are 16% in Benin and Cote d'Ivoire. So now, what we are trying to say is that it is always possible to have the government tell us whether it's going to reduce or it cannot reduce, because we still think it's something that is actually very much possible. Now, let me come to the last slide that was almost the last slide that was presented by is Engineer Kanini, who had presented that. Yeah. So I saw that the time of use tariff is something that we are debating much. Let me say categorically that there is no tariff that we enjoy there. The maximum percentage of the saving that we get from that arrangement of a tariff is 2.67%. That is our research from Electricity Consumer Society of Kenya. Regardless of whether it's normally mentioned as 50%, it has never even closed 3% for any consumer. If they have anybody who has actually benefited to more than 3%, we are ready to listen. Now, how can that be the economy enabler, which is only 3%? And remember, you're only supposed to do that at night. And sometimes that is the time you're also lighting up some lights and you are having other inefficiencies due to operating on off-peak hour. So we want to state categorically that is not a tariff that was designed to help any enabling economy. Thank you very much. I think I will stop there because I'm also a politician to some kind, but when it comes to issues to do with energy, it's good for us to be told exactly what we are saving and what we are not saving. But the tariffs, time of use tariff, nobody should tell us that it is assisting Kenya at all. Thank you very much, Catherine.
Thank you very much, Engineer Dereva. Wow, what proper use of data. Your trends are very impressive, and they can enable you to put forth a very good argument and discussion with evidence based on the trends. So ladies and gentlemen, it's been wonderful, wonderful presentations. Now we are moving to the very key part where we want to answer your questions. And the questions are coming in fast and quickly. And of course, a good number of them are targeted towards Kenya Power. And we're going to start with the first one, which is also related to the presentation that has just ended. Engineer Kanini, thank you for a good presentation. How successful is the time of use tariff? That is, has it actually incentivized industries to increase their production activities during the time that this tariff applies? Let's get an answer from Engineer Kanini and let it be supported by Engineer Dereva, who has just left the stage and he touched on this. Another big thanks to all our presenters. I think it's been very insightful. We have learned so much in that session, in that part one, and we're looking forward to more engagement during this Q&A. Engineer Kanini.
Yes, thank you, Catherine, and thank you to Lois, who has asked that question. From where I sit, time of use tariff is working. And I say so because every cycle, I look at the billing. If we had not applied, where we have the baseline where we have not applied time of use, and when we apply time of use, and I see that we have customers who have really saved. For example, during the last billing, we had 1,200 customers, actually 1,195 customers who benefited from time of use, with total savings of around 120 million. At times, we have even seen individual customers benefit up to even 20 million based on how they have
Margaret?
of course, improve our economic growth in the country. Because when we applied time of use in 1999, 2000, we had the same tariff. And what happened is that customers shifted all their load. Actually, most of their load was shifted to be at night. And as a company, we were hurt economically. Revenues, we were not protected in revenues. So actually it was stopped. So this time when this tariff was being developed a second time, we were very careful that we put it in such a way that we are not going to have a shift of load to off-peak. We are just going to make sure that our customers increase production and during off-peak and during peak. Reason, because we do not have issues with generation. We have adequate generation and we want this generation to be utilized by our customers. And I think the industries were very involved in the development of this tariff. And from where I sit, I think it has been, it has really benefited customers. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. A comment from Engineer Dereva on the same. Thank you for that summary, Margaret.
Thank you. I'm having a problem because Engineer Margaret Kanini is also my friend. So sometimes we are not able to agree when we are one-on-one, but it is good to agree with her here that I have taken a note of the millions we are talking about, but that is only not more than 3%. I am happy if you would present the data in percentage, but there is no benefit. And again, the other problem is, because I know the economists who designed that was actually doing a good job, because he made sure that you will only be averaging after 6 months. So if you actually moved to the next, maybe if you are consuming 2,000, then you start consuming 3,000. That is the only time you can benefit. So the tariff is not aimed at encouraging energy efficiency in terms of reducing the consumption. It is aimed at you being more inefficient so that you can consume more, so that you enjoy the exceeding tariffs on the threshold. So I beg to disagree on that, that if it is a tariff that is supposed to encourage energy efficiency, it should actually give you, based on how much you reduce from the previous month, that should be the basis of being given some incentive or something, but not when you increase your consumption. I mean, we need to reduce consumption. That is my take.
Isaac, Catherine, let me respond to that. I beg to differ because increasing consumption does not necessarily mean that you are being inefficient. This the spirit of this time of use was actually increase production but increase consumption, and in an efficient manner. These two are very different. So I beg to differ that this one does not support efficiency. This one supports efficiency, but maybe what you are talking about is load management, because load management in this case is where you shift from peak hours so that you can save on peak demand to off-peak hours. And that is different from efficiency. So I think they are different. Maybe we can discuss another time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Margaret and Isaac. The next two questions go to Mr. Makaka and back to Engineer Kanini. Sylvester, are electricity tariffs in Kenya really supporting businesses? And as you answer that, Engineer Kanini will be trying to answer. James already is wondering, Margaret, is Kenya Power really seeing that the commercial and industry is not happy with their billing cost? Do Kenya Power customer relations have this feedback? So let's have that debate from Sylvester on whether the tariffs are pro-business, and from Kenya Power on whether they really focus on the customer.
Thank you, Catherine. And that is a wonderful question to talk about today. Because Kenya is, we've committed, or we've promised ourselves to be an industrialized economy by 2030. And I think we are in the medium-term 3 period of that vision 2030. And we ask ourselves is, what is our competitive edge? And our competitive edge, if we are to put energy in that matrix, it doesn't fit into our competitive market as the lowest or as the most competitive. So the first answer from my point of view is that as it stands now, our energy cost doesn't give us a competitive edge. So there may be other factors that are influencing our competitive edge, but energy is not one of them. And that's the reason you find there's a lot of external manufactured goods competing with Kenyan manufactured goods right here on the local market. Whereas we cannot, for sure, we cannot start saying we are an export, major player in the export market. So what is it that we need to do so that we can become competitive? Number two, our energy, and I'll speak about the electricity subsector specifically, has so many other costs that come with it apart from the pricing. And we in manufacturing say no power is much more expensive than expensive power available. So the first thing we need to ask ourselves is, as a manufacturer, what is the reliability factor? And what does that cost of unreliability reflect to my cost of manufacturing? How does it push my cost higher? And the quick answer will be, yes, we are not super smart, that we have a very reliable, robust grid that I'm guaranteed of 100% availability throughout the year. So when we compound these costs, then we add on the cost of electricity, and then we put it in the matrix of where should I invest to get a quicker return on my investment, then you find we are not competing. And then money has no boundaries. It will definitely move to a more competitive economy, a more competitive country. So we need really to pull up our socks, both in terms of pricing and in terms of reliability. Now that we seem to be really sorting out the capacity issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvester. Margaret, on the commercial and industrial?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, there's the question on, although it's not very, very clear, that is Kenya Power really seeing that the C&I, that's commercial and industrial, the customer is not happy with their billing costs? Billing costs, I guess that means the electricity cost, something like that. So what I can say is that as Kenya Power, we capture the consumption of energy through our metering systems, which are very well calibrated, and our billing, especially commercial and industrial, not to say the others are not accurate, we strive very much to bill actual consumption. And if there are any individual disputes, we take that individually with the customers and we take them through. Again, we are we have serious collaboration with various parties like the KAM. We have various forums where we explain some of the billing attributes, any changes or anything that is to do with their billing. We have we address that. We have a team across the country of industry liaison officers that take care of any emerging issues with our industrial and SME customers across the country. And I think we are pretty much in touch with what is happening. And I appreciate the feedback. So if there are any gaps, I promise that we are going to try to sort it out with the individual chapters of our customers. If these are not customers who are represented, then probably the person can ask one-on-one. He can try to tell me what the issues are after this, and we can sort it out. Otherwise, thank you for the feedback. We will try to improve our response to our customers.
Thank you so much, Engineer Kanini. Now, there has been such a huge uptake of renewable energy sources in this country. But somehow, consumers don't seem to be feeling the benefits. At the same time, Kenya Power put out an expression of interest in solar. One of the members is puzzled, Engineer Kanini, as to why Kenya Power did this and what is the general direction of this discussion. Let us have one of the AEPEA representatives explain to us why we don't seem to benefit from the renewable energy sources, and then we can get an idea of the direction that Kenya Power is taking with the EOI on solar that they expressed. Nixon or Leonard? Let's have AEPEA.
Thank you, Catherine. I think I can go first before Margaret comes in.
All right.
And probably I would like to say that that is not entirely true, because you recall in my presentation, we talked about an energy mix of around 92% currently. We've seen a reduction of the fuel energy cost from a high of 7 shillings and 22 cents. That's in 2014, around July 2014. We've been doing around 2 shillings and 50 cents. Or rather this month, the applicable rate is around 3 shillings and 14 cents. Then you also need to look at the aspects of the demand side. These are projects which are coming in with committed obligations, payment obligations. If your demand is not growing, then of course, you are spreading cost over a lower demand. The numerator is your cost, but your demand is your denominator. Your costs are going up, but your denominator is lagging. It's growing not as much as your numerator. So of course that one would affect what I refer to as the non-fuel cost. But in terms of the fuel cost, we've seen a reduction since we brought on board the renewables. So thank you. And I think again, maybe to address, there are some questions which engineer raised in his presentation about the Forex adjustments in July 2018. And probably I failed to mention in my presentation that, when you're reviewing the tariff, these tariffs are dollar or foreign currency denominated. At that point, you revise your Forex, the exchange rate. Yeah. So when you're reviewing in July 2018, you take an exchange rate that is applicable then. So that means now, of course, it will have an effect on your non-fuel. But now, when you are doing the Forex adjustment in the subsequent months, the Forex adjustments will be almost zero because now you're using an exchange rate which is almost applicable at that particular time. Of course, as you go on, there'll be some volatilities, because I remember even in 2018, we saw negative Forex adjustments. So thank you.
Thank you, Leonard. Margaret?
Yes, mine is about Kenya Power and solar. There was an advert, an expression of interest that was put out to developers to come and assist, to partner with Kenya Power in providing energy, our customers with energy during the day. So the idea was to get into the space, into the solar space, because you agree with me that solar is also one of the energy, sources of energy that we can tap into. So it was like a diversification of revenue. What happened is that that time when the submission was being done, our SAP system for returning tenders was down and it could not be done. There was a very serious system hitch, but that one has since been sorted and the idea has been revived. So I think for those who are interested to be developers, they can look into our portal on tenders, register with us and be able to give their documentation to see if they qualify. So that is what happened, but it has now been revived. It's not a big issue. I think I can see another query. It's about illegal lines. Yeah. Do I go for it, Catherine?
Please proceed.
Yes, someone is asking what it's about illegal lines, and can somebody, can Catherine please read for me the question? I can't see it properly. Oh yes, how KPLC is ensuring accidents attributable to illegal connections are reduced, and whether there are any plans for smart metering in the consumption monitoring. Now, there are a number of things that we are doing in terms of ensuring that accidents attributable to illegal connections are reduced. One, we have intensified our installation inspections. The law mandates us to do installation inspections to ensure that all the installations that we have for our customers are healthy and that accidents are not likely to occur. So in the process of doing that, we find a lot of illegal lines that have been done in a very substandard way. And what we have been doing is that we have been removing those lines that are illegal and instituting some arrests. A lot of arrests have been done because we work with the law enforcement agencies. And at the same time, we have created collaborations with customers in those areas where we have this vice going on, especially in the people settlement. We carry out a lot of education, customer education, to show them the dangers of doing illegal connections, because some of them are really very badly done. You find they go through the sewer lines and go very far, what we call sambaza. And this way you find that a certain cartel controls a certain area. They are selling power illegally to the customers, and we are not getting anything as the company that is distributing power or selling power to them. So we have intensified our efforts in ensuring that we don't have any illegal campaigns. Maybe you have seen across the country, everybody is like out and trying to secure our revenue from these people. So yes, we are doing a lot so that we safeguard our revenues.
Thank you. Thank you, Engineer Kanini. There is still quite a bit of interest on the time of use. Let's get a different perspective from the representatives from AEPEA. Let's get that from Mr. Nixon Bukachi. Please make a comment of time of use from a different perspective.
Thank you, Catherine. Hope you can hear me.
Yes, we get you loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to maybe make a small follow-up on what Ndereva was saying, and maybe bring in this perspective of why we came up with the time of use. Of course, one of the things that we are looking at in time of use is to grow electricity consumption by industrial customers, and not just on that segment of industrial and commercial customers, but also spur economic growth. So in this case, what we are saying, if the customer, if the industries are consuming more, not necessarily because of being inefficient, but because they are producing more, they're able to sell more, create more jobs in the economy, and therefore be able to grow the country in general. So my input was, we should not look at some of those initiatives like time of use and maybe rebates that was being proposed at some point with one lens, because what the government has the responsibility, of course, of making electricity affordable, being a basic need now. I think electricity and, for example, internet will be one of the basic needs that we are looking at into the future, that every citizen should be able to access. But at the same time, the growth in electricity consumption or the usage of electricity should be able to spur more economic activities in the economy, and therefore create more jobs and grow the economy in general, or the country's GDP. And that's why you'll hear, even when you're talking about off-grid, we do insist on a productive use of energy, that you are being supplied with electricity. Using this electricity, you should be able to generate an economic activity. So it's envisioned that giving the reprieve to the industries will be able to spur more industrial production and therefore grow the country's GDP. So that's the only clarification I wanted to make. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Please go ahead.
I was trying to say that, of course, we appreciate that. Remember, we are also auditors, so we are privy to that kind of a setup. The only thing I wanted to tell everybody is that the consumers know that there is a basket, that even if you manufacture 12 hours during the day, 12 hours during the night, 24 hours for 30 days, the maximum you can gain is only 5%. That is the upper limit. So there is nothing that is going to be more than 5% saving, even if you manufacture like throughout the year. It's going to be a maximum of 5%. But as a result of the uniqueness of the manufacturing environment, you always find that the maximum, the best person who has performed that was 2.67 from my end. I'm still looking for a different figure. And when you are paying 100 million and you have only saved 2.67 million because of manufacturing at night, I think it's going to be very little you have gained. At least even butter gives us 20% when we buy shoes from them. Even the best discount that is, of course, manageable, you can say 10% discount. But now, come on, 5% is the maximum, and you can only achieve 2.67. I'm saying that is not with a good heart. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ndereva. I like the way you argue and you're so passionate. I'm just wondering, do you get support? Does your organization, Electricity Consumers Society of Kenya, get support from other energy sector players? We are seeing renewable energy coming up. There's been so much talk about these tariffs and so on. What is the framework like? What is the ecosystem? What kind of support do you get, and what kind of support are we getting as a nation towards this issue of tariffs?
Thank you, Catherine. Let me start by saying that we have not been very, very vocal for the last few years. But of course, you can remember when Apollo Boya went to block some recovery by Kenya Power. That is the first time I think people came to understand that there is help. But now, due to the support we are being given by many NGOs and funding partners, there are donors who are trying to take interest because we are trying to promote sustainable goal number 7. So many of them are now gaining interest. Even in media houses, you will realize that some of them are also trying to appreciate that they can give us an airtime so that we can educate our consumers. We are also happy that Kenya Power, we have our contact person, which is Engineer Margaret Kanini. She's also giving us a hearing every time we go to her, so we are getting that support. When we go to AEPEA, we are also getting some hearing. We have several meetings lined up with the acting DG, who is Daniel Kipto. So I wouldn't really complain that we are not getting a hearing. The only further advancement we need to do is that we need to be appreciated by the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum, so that even during the policy formulation, the contributions of the consumers can be factored in. And that is something that has not been factored in. Even during the the tariff review of the 2018. We were very disappointed that we were not involved, and we are actually listening to see whether they will go ahead to do anything without being involved. It's the time that the Mwananchi is going to decide what's going to be for any of these institutions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. At least we know how it's working in terms of support. Now, our members, AEPEA, our friends of energy professionals, I am afraid our time is up. We really respect your time as AEPEA. At AEPEA, we are professionals and we really have to stick to the time agreed. We are only remaining with 10 minutes, so we would like to invite the panelists to give their closing remarks. And as they give their closing remarks, following all that we have discussed here today, I am very interested in their personal views of how the future outlook of electricity tariffs in Kenya is going to look like. We have the Energy Act 2019. There are all these regulations that are coming up. We would like to hear from them. What is the future outlook of electricity tariffs in Kenya? A big round of applause for our panelists as they close. It's been quite informative and insightful, these sessions. We've heard from AEPEA, Kenya Power, representative of CAM and the Electricity Consumer Society of Kenya. And I also noticed there's been a lot of interest around Kenya Power. There were 50% of the questions were coming from Kenya Power. So as we close, we thank you so much for having joined us, and please give us very brief closing remarks. I would like to start with AEPEA. Karibu Leonard and Nixon.
Thank you. I think I will take the opportunity to thank the participants for giving us their precious time. And in terms of the future of the electricity sector and electricity tariffs, in my view, we are looking at a more liberalized market in future. I think someone was asking a question about why Kenya Power is looking at the commercial and industrial solar. But in my opinion, I think that's the way to go in terms of being able to partner with electricity consumers and make the electricity sector as a service and not as a commercial business, in that the utility, that's the distribution company, the generators are able to partner with customers to be able to deliver solutions that are able to meet their needs at a cheaper cost. And that's why I think those ones who are in the industrial and commercial sector, we have seen there's been a lot of developers, quite a number of developers that have come in to do commercial and industrial solar, which from my end, I look at as a positive step because it's liberalizing the market, bringing in more competition, and also then therefore growing the economy and bringing in foreign investment. So in terms of the future, as us as consumers, I think I would encourage the consumers to use electricity more, because I think one of the things when Leonard was presenting that was coming out, the reasons why we are not able to enjoy the benefits of renewable energies because we are paying for commitments of energy that we are not using. So if we're able to grow our usage of electricity in terms of the key projects like LabSet and even bringing more industries, I look at the future where the tariffs would go low if we're able to utilize more and encourage more investment in the industrial and commercial sector. Thank you. I will allow Leonard to go.
Thank you, Nixon. And I think I share the same sentiments with you that the outlook really is bright, and the Energy Act has given us, it has opened the way. And we've seen new developments in the energy sector, starting with the C&I, currently C&I solar, that is. Currently, we have the authority has commissioned a power market study. We are trying to look at whether Kenya is ready for a power market. And I believe once that study is out now, we would know, we would chart a way forward in terms of how the sector is going to be run. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonard. Let's hear from Kenya Power. Engineer Margaret Kanini.
Yeah, thank you, Catherine. And let me thank the participants for the great interest in Kenya Power. Of course, that is understandable because we are the ones who deliver the invoice to them. So mine is just to say that the future for electricity tariffs in Kenya, for me, I see a time when we are going to embrace the power markets. As a country, I know we are very dynamic and very good at getting new ideas. I liked what Sylvester was talking about, I think what you call dynamic pricing, where we can reach a point where we can be selling electricity basing on where we have bought it from, as opposed to having a fixed tariff, irrespective of what energy, I mean, how much we have bought. So that I believe in future is going to happen. But all of us also have to play a part in terms of making sure that the energy sector is very vibrant. All of us play our part in managing the energy and utilizing what we have. Because as a country, we are at a point where we really wish that we can have, the demand can really grow so that we can see vibrancy in this, in the energy market. The other thing I would like to challenge us as energy professionals is to really get interested in understanding the tariffs. There's nothing wrong with interrogating tariffs. We actually like the challenge when they are interrogated, so that we can keep on improving and give the best to our customers, of course, looking at all factors. Yeah, so thank you very much. I appreciate being with you today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Margaret Kanini, and thank you so much for availing yourself for this session. Let's hear the closing remarks of Mr. Sylvester Makaka.
Yes, Catherine, thank you. In my closing remarks, I would say that the horse is already bolted. The dynamics of energy markets are changing pretty fast. And for the first time in the history of this country, consumers are feeling like they have an alternative. So if the sector doesn't run right now, the regulator, the Kenya Power, and the sector managers, maybe you may start running behind the schedule. So it's time to engage the high gear and get this sector stable. We still require a strong grid to support anything else that is coming in as distributed generation. We still need a competitive tariff to support business, and we still need to build the economy as manufacturers. So we need to put all that into consideration and see that we remain a strong sector, so that what will bring in investment. Then number two is we need to promise, and actually promise a future that we can deliver. We promised 10 years ago, we promised manufacturers and of course investors that when we bring in these renewables, energy prices gonna fall or come down. That has not been realized. So we need to promise a future that we can deliver and work towards delivering that, so that manufacturers can gain confidence and have a future that looks promising to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvester. Thank you very much for those closing remarks. And last but not least, Engineer Isaac Dereva.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Mine will be brief, but I just wanted to highlight that today's paper called the Business Daily said the state is to save Kenya Power from Keynesian direct sales. And I was wondering, why is it being saved? Is it being saved so that we can keep it afloat? Those are the problems that, those are the things that I was thinking about. But the fact that ELCOS is supposed to ensure that we get affordable energy. And from the last, from 2017, you have seen from our trend that energy is becoming more expensive. Electricity is more expensive. It is becoming more and more expensive. So I don't know what the government and all the other agencies are doing to ensure that that is going to be lower. But I think it boils down to the fact that Kenya Power is also owned partly by the government and partly by the private sector. And as a result, and that is as opposed to many of the utilities companies in Africa, like in Tanzania, is 100% government. And as a result, you see they are normally charged 12 shillings, 12 Kenya shillings equivalent, and they are still afloat and they are not complaining of any losses. What I think is that Kenya Power has been making, I think the policies are being made because there are some private investors in Kenya Power. They are calling the shots on how these power purchase agreements are going to be done and how the tariffs will be done. And so as a result, there are too many interests. And that's why you hear that the state is saving Kenya Power from Kenyan direct sales. I think it is the government trying to play around with itself. So we need to come out clear and let the consumer voice heard, because if the government is the one that is going to be deciding, then I think we will not be enjoying anything as far as freedom is concerned. Otherwise, I welcome all to partner with us in trying to inform consumers more and more. And also to thank all the panelists who have been here. Most of them we are friends, but sometimes we are just like politicians. We disagree in front of many people. But when we are together, I think we laugh together, but not to the disadvantage of the consumer, of course. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Engineer Dereva. Very interesting. So our guests, there you have it. We would like to thank all 68 of you who were able to join us. I think at the peak, we were around 68. It's been a really, really wonderful event. The insights have been a lot. I would like to summarize as follows. Take initiative to understand the tariffs. Let us put in place a power market. There's going to be dynamic and spot market pricing. There will be uptake of renewable energy, and there will be energy efficiency. In summary, that is what our speakers say the future looks like. So I'd like to thank you once again, Mr. Nixon Bukachi, Mr. Leonard Yegon from AEPEA, Engineer Margaret Kanini from the very sensational Kenya Power, where all the interest lies, Mr. Sylvester Makaka, Executive Officer and Energy Advisor, CAM, and Engineer Isaac Dereva, Executive Director of the Electricity Consumer Society of Kenya. Thank you so, so much for finding time to honor us with your presence in this event for AEPEA. We are really grateful that you could take time to educate and provide insights into this very hot topic of understanding your energy tariffs, development and application, and how to manage your energy costs. I believe the members of the association are the better for this particular webinar, and that we've carried away key learnings, and we're going to continue the conversation offline. Thank you so, so much. We appreciate. We look forward to more webinars from AEPEA, and we look forward to further engagement from all the panelists that have been in this discussion. I also send in a big hi from the Kenya Electricity Generating Company, which was not represented except by virtue of moderating. So asanteni sana. We wish you all the best, and we wish you success in all your endeavors, especially Engineer Dereva and Mr. Sylvester Makaka. Please support the process in ensuring that the tariffs are more friendly, even as Kenya Power and AEPEA continue improving on this for the entire country. Asanteni sana. Have a good weekend. All the best, everyone. And I would like to sign off and return it back to AEPEA for some quick closing remarks from the association by Mr. Hannes Muhongo. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Catherine, for that wonderful webinar, for conducting the webinar wonderfully for us. I will not go into thanking all the other panelists. At least you've thanked them well enough. You are the only one who's not been thanked so far. So I take this opportunity to thank you. Having said that, I would also like to thank each and everyone who has participated. in this webinar, and just give a challenge to each and every one of us. We have been asked to try and understand the tariffs. I will want to go further and say that let's try to understand the sector. When we talk about the Act, let's understand what is in the Act. Then there are several regulations that are also being made, either at review, being reviewed from the past Act, or being drafted afresh. It is important as energy professionals that we engage first to understand what is happening and also be able to put our voice in it, so that at the end of the day, we don't start trying to internalize these things when they are being implemented, but rather by the time they are going to be approved, we already understand where they are. We know why they have been done in the way they have been made, so that we can make our sector better. As an association, one of the main things that we can do as an association is to bring professionals together, like we have done in this particular webinar. And by so doing, it helps us to have serious discourse about issues that are affecting our sector. Secondly, it also helps develop our capacity as individuals, because one of the challenges that you will find happens on some of the things that we are discussing is the advice that we give to various sectors, which at times end up in the conception of the tariffs that we make. We have been told about the tariffs and how they are affected, especially the demand and supply relationship, in such a way that if we had a substantial demand currently on our grid vis-a-vis the capacity that we have now to supply, then I guarantee that we'll be having lower tariffs than we have now. However, the capacity is high, most of the time idle, highly underutilized. But then at the end of the day, for us to make sure that the investors who are in the supply, generation and supply of energy are available to do that for us, then it means that the few people who are on the grid end up carrying that bulk of the cost of supply. Some of us, if not most of us, can remember the 50,000, the 5,000 plus megawatt drive by the government, which to me, for the political class which was pushing that, they were properly informed to do that, because the industries and the country at large was crying for more power. And they say that give us more power and we'll give jobs. Now we have the more power, the jobs and the demand are not coming along as we will have expected. And now the power that we have put in that is a little bit excess is giving us challenges. That's not to say that it's something to blame to one side or the other, but the thing is to be very keen and careful with the first the drafting and also the implementation of all policies that we have, including the least cost power development plans. Now we are even yearning for the spot markets. We are now getting into a dispensation where we have distributed generation, and like just as we are excited about it, I like the way Sylvester also acknowledges that that can only go forward if we have a strong grid. So even as we go into those cheap power development plans, we cannot do that without the grid and the sector players who are providing that infrastructure for us at the moment. So my challenge to energy sector players, especially at a professional level, make sure that you resource yourself well with the information around, and then when you have an opportunity to advise, because we are the ones advising in all sectors across, then you are giving sound advice such that we can be able to develop our sector much better. I don't want to make another speech. I don't want to make another speech since we've had a very robust discussion. We have more webinars coming up, which we will be inviting some of you to be able to be part of the discussion, and we encourage that this becomes a way of life for our energy sector players. So thank you everyone for participating, and hope to see you in the next webinar by the Association of Energy Professionals. Back to you, Catherine.
Thank you very much, Hannes. Hannes is the Vice President of the Association of Energy Professionals in East Africa. If you are not a member, please join, be an active member, bring in the topic that you'd like to hear more about, and let us grow together as professionals. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your concentration and participation. See you in the next webinar. Have a good evening and all the best in all your endeavors. Asanteni sana and God bless. So we can now leave at our leisure. Yes, kwaherini.